Hi, I'm Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. By accessing this presentation, you're inviting me to share this information regarding our passage through this challenging and very hopeful time. This is the care and feeding of a New World Age report for the Gregorian date of March 6, 2013, and One Eagle in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. And we're also going to discuss the Pisces new moon, Mars moving into Aries, and Mercury turning direct. March 6, 2013 is One Men, or Eagle, which carries the themes of higher perspective, keen vision, free spirit, messenger of faith and knowledge, patience, the wings of spirit, value, manifestation of fertility, knowing the details, the dualities of the sun and moon, the budding youth and the wise elder, male and female, the soaring eagle and the falling eagle, the messenger between earth and heaven. It also represents luck and hope, liberty, trust, good fortune, and good relationships. Eagles have the quality of being able to observe the movements from a great distance. The One Eagle 13-day period could be used to gain greater perspective about the events in our daily lives through creating some distance between the observer and what's being observed. And since One Eagle is about seeing from a higher perspective and also about duality, I thought I'd discuss two prophecies that are finding their way into the collective consciousness this March. March is the third month, and with the digits of 2013, the year, when added together, this is a 9-month in numerology, which, given that the cycles move in a 9-month pattern, we have moved into the stage of completion and new beginnings. And this is really interesting to me because this pattern is being repeated in various systems and prophecies that are not based on the same sources. This March is about the closure of old themes and situations, but also about evaluating our journey as we close out the past and walk through the doorway into something completely new. At the beginning of the month, we have 6 planets in the sign of Pisces. This is the final astrological representation, which wraps up 1 year before the spring equinox, which has the Sun and the Mars and Venus all moving into Aries, joining Uranus, signaling a time of new beginnings in the first sign of the zodiac. And what I find amazing about what we are seeing is that as this is being played out in all places, the Catholic Church, with Pope Benedict XVI stepping down and conclave to determine the next pope. And of course, the fish represents Pisces, but it also was the first symbol of the Christians, and the age of Pisces marked the rise to power of the Catholic Church. And this has inspired many folks to look at the prophecy of Saint Malachi, which predicts the qualities of 112 popes, beginning with Pope Celestine II, and these are in the form of cryptic passages in Latin, of which Pope Benedict represents the 111th pope in the procession of 112. The final pope is said to be Peter the Roman, who brings the destruction of Rome, the seven-hilled city, and the collapse of the Catholic Church. And some even interpret this to mean Armageddon, or the end of mankind. This prophecy has been disputed, and it may be a forgery, but my point in bringing it to your attention is to demonstrate that this is another example of completion and new beginnings that is flowing into the collective consciousness on this particular March. Another example comes from Don Alejandro, the high priest of the Maya, who in 1999 prophesied, and this is a quote, that you and I may meet again in another dimension after the year 0. The year 0 is the word of the Maya, and on March 31st, 2013, the sun will be hidden for a period of 60 to 70 hours. And this is when we shall enter into the period of the 5th sun. Then you will realize that the Mayans speak our facts and not false preachings. We're not saying that the world will end. There are false ones who say these things to frighten and threaten a world without awakening. But the Maya uh, uh, the Maya priests and astronomers know what is happening and see what will happen in the future. This is my only message. I do not come to intimidate you. I come to say that we should love one another. Let us walk together. We are all children, and we pray that our Father will be with us. Thank you. This quote is in reference to the completion of the 13th Bach tune and the beginning of the next cycle on the Mayan Tzolkin date of 13 Ahau. And indigenous cultures see time as cyclical and following the sacred circle, whereas Western cultures see time as linear and coming to an end. And in recent years, Don Alejandro has not made any reference to the March 31st, 2013 being the beginning of the time of the fifth sun. But I thought it was interesting that it's yet another example of this March being the time of completion and rebirth. And I think the timing of this is actually related to the superior conjunction of Venus and the Sun, which occurs on the 28th. And Venus is one of the most important planets in Mayan cosmology, and it's forming a line with the Sun at the end of the Mayan Tzolkin round is very significant. This is part of a 104-year cycle. I think it's even more amazing that the Sun, Venus, and Uranus are in exact alignment on March 28th. 3 days before the completion of the Tzolkin round. And of course, the idea of 3 days of darkness is found in sacred manuscripts of many different cultures. And I believe that the origin of this concept comes from the fact that the sun arrives at the Tropic of Capricorn on the winter solstice and does not actually begin moving north for 3 days. For 3 days after the solstice, it seems to be stuck at the most southern part, which is why many cultures, religions, and belief systems talk about 3 days of darkness or 3 days in the tomb in their scriptures and oral accounts. And in Don Alejandro's prophecy, this is a transition time to the earth being renewed and returned to a peaceful state, where we all awaken, and to quote him, to build a country full of peace, love, tranquility, and prosperity. Okay, in the spirit of the eagles seeing from a higher perspective and the messenger of faith and knowledge and in exploring dualities, I recall that the pre-Columbian prophecy rock of the Hopi speaks to choice, and I believe it integrates these two previously discussed predictions of Saint Malachi and Don Alejandro. But before discussing its symbolism, I want to preface this information by saying that the important thing to realize about prophecy is it doesn't tell us what is to be, but rather what we need to hear to inspire us to make inner changes that ultimately assist our spiritual evolution, and which means that the shift in our spiritual path may provide the change necessary to move forward without having to experience the actual prophesized events. So anyway, let's look at Prophecy Rock and see what it tells us about how we navigate this challenging experience. And this information comes from a number of Hopi elders such as Thomas Benyanka and Grandfather Martin, and as described by the keepers of the carvings, we see that this is the figure here of the Great Spirit, who is a one-hearted guardian of Mother Earth, who gives man the sacred circle that guarantees a life of peace and abundance if the man follows the spiritual path. And in the story, a white man leaves to spread the spiritual message, while a brown man waits for his return. But the white man comes under the influence of the cross, and then ends up traveling up this upper path, and the upper road that it leads to materialism and technology, and it leads him to coming under the influence of the three men who have two hearts. And the three men who have two hearts are these two lines on each of these drawings represent the two hearts, who use their technology in World War I and World War II. The one-hearted man, after the three men with two hearts, is convinced that the two-hearted people are on the right path by following the cross. Materialism and technology. By following the cross and by following materialism and following technology, he comes under the influence of the two-hearted men. And I think the three men who have two hearts represent the oppressive powers that control people through economics, military, and religion. And then this zigzag line after this is said to represent the powerful nations that come together to kill men, women, and children and destroy nature and her creatures. And then this bump here represents World War III, which we are hearing more and more about now, as many nations are enacting laws to limit the rights of their citizens under the auspices of protecting him. And the interesting thing is this jagged line ends, and it ends in the destruction of the world in flames after dropping the gourd full of ashes. Now, the lower path here, this lower line, is the path of everlasting life, by returning to the sacred circle in harmony with nature, and continues along this line long after the upper road ends. Actually, on the actual rock, it goes around the corner of the rock and just continues around the back side of the rock. And so, and one of the things that happens with this is what it shows is when following the sacred circle, following the lower path, there's an abundance of food, and there are people living into old age. And this, to me, seems like the path described by Don Alejandro's prophecy. And I believe that humans are storied people, and the stories that we contemplate inform our beliefs and our reality. And the story of Prophecy Rock discusses that the followers of the cross are taking the upper path away from Mother Earth, which I believe has its roots in Abraham's covenant with God, which determined that some people are chosen to control and exploit the earth, and others will be cursed if they try to object. And the story can lead people to feel justified in the exploitation of the earth for her resources, and can lead people to feel, and can also lead them to believe that they're right in committing genocide against people of different beliefs. This is not meant as an attack on the Abrahamic religions. I know that most of the people involved in these belief systems are not consciously engaged in these behaviors. This is an attempt to ask people to recognize how their stories color their view of the world. The three of the major world religions have their roots in this belief, and it amazes me that they are in conflict with each other, but they have forgotten that they simply have different names for the same God. But it also speaks to the power of the story, because each of those religions believe that they are the chosen one, and that all the others are all to be cursed. So is it any wonder we find our world at this crossroads? The upper path is the path away from earth, and away from the earth. And personally, I am leery of any belief system that preaches ascension, whether it's Old Testament or New Age. I do not believe in any path away from Mother Earth leads anywhere except away from connection to Source. And to me, the upper road of following the cross is the same as the St. Malachi prophecy, and the lower road of following the sacred circle is the same as Don Alejandro's prophecy. And I think that Prophecy Rock speaks to these two descriptions of March 2013 and our choice about which road we're walking. Purification by fire can represent anything from a nuclear war to global awakening and enlightenment. So clearly, this is our time of choice. Okay, as we begin One Eagle, we have this stellium of planets in Pisces. We have the Sun, and we have Venus, and Mercury, and Mars, and Neptune, and Chiron, which includes Mercury spending 9 weeks in Pisces due to its retrograde cycle at that time. This will be a time period with strong spiritual undercurrents and otherworldly realizations, but it also brings great confusion. And so look for the world and personal events involving water. This is a time of completions, as Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. And Mars, the Sun, and Venus move from watery Pisces into fiery Aries around the equinox and into April, where they're going to merge with Uranus and are challenged by Pluto, which brings another time period of upheaval and transformation. As one door closes, another opens is a strong theme in March. March begins with all the planets appearing to move forward from our vantage point on Earth, except for Saturn and Mercury, which appear to move retrograde or in reverse motion. And planets don't really move in reverse on their orbits, but appear to move backwards, much like a car passing a slower moving car. There is a point with a slower moving car appears to be moving in reverse when compared to landmarks in the far distance. And this was all covered in the last report, so you may want to check that out for the mechanics of how planets appear to be retrograde. I like to describe Mercury retrograde as being the trickster. And during One Eagle, Mercury is moving to the peak of its power as it's due to its slowing to a stop, which is exact on the 17th, and then changing direction. And it's important to remember that the Greek god Hermes, who the Romans renamed to Mercury, was the trickster god. He was the messenger of the gods, and if you weren't on his good side, you might not get your message, or it might be altered to mean something different than what was intended. And many of us are familiar with Mercury retrograde and its adverse effect on communications and travel and technology. Saturn appearing to move in reverse can be kind of compared to a time period for recuperation and perhaps doing a little bit of backtracking regarding some obstacle in our path. And the point with this is after Saturn's retrograde period, we can advance forward towards our goals with feeling a little more rested and with a more efficient process, as long as we honor Saturn rather than trying to push through regardless of resistance. Okay, let's look at the daily vibrational energy for this Trecena. March 6, 2013 is One Eagle. This is about unity being experienced through seeing from a higher perspective. And we have Venus, the planet of romantic love and social connections, is very busy because it's going to harmonize with Pluto. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 60-degree sextile angle. It also finds support from Saturn. So from our perspective on Earth, this angle is 120 degrees, or a trine, support from Saturn. And it's also merging with Mercury, which means from our perspective here that on the 6th, Mercury and Venus are at the same degree of Pisces. So which whenever we've got the goddess in love interacting with the god of the underworld, Pluto, there's a higher probability of being contacted by our ex-lovers. Particularly, it's going to bring up the deep felt need to be part of a relationship or a group. And then when Venus is in a favorable relationship with Saturn, we have a desire for stable relationships which adds durability to what is established at this time. And when she dances with Mercury, um, uh, we have agreeable conversations and are pushed to find some resolutions based on our values. And this day is really wonderful energy for love and creative commitments that we want to have be long lasting. The moon in Capricorn is in harmony with Neptune, Venus, Saturn, Mercury, and the sun, challenged by Uranus, and merges with Pluto, which um, begins this Trisena with an emotionally shifting day, uh, with folks being very sensitive uh, to the feelings of others very early in the morning, and then later they're jumping to conclusions due to having sort of hasty feelings, and then finally they're moving from wanting to be with friends and the people they love, to feeling intense emotional energy that rises up from our depths, to wanting to be alone in our thoughts and moods, and then finally breaking through to socializing and communicating, at least on a superficial level, with also feeling a sense of peace between our inner and outer worlds. The seventh is two wisdom in the Tzolkin, which is about duality being experienced through introspection, meditation, and forgiveness. And Mercury finds support from Saturn. So here we have Mercury finding support from Saturn. Again, this is a 120-degree trine angle, and it's also harmonizing, making a 60-degree angle with Pluto. A sextile, which brings an influence with Saturn. To think about something that's serious, a serious issue, or about making a commitment. And with Pluto, this adds the love of mystery and to solve puzzles or to search to know what is unknowable. And Mercury is retrograde, continues to occupy our minds with reviewing our past for the origins of our wounds and contemplating our spiritual beliefs, and uh, and it's moved now behind the sun in our perspective, in where the sun is in a degree of Pisces that's greater than the degree that Mercury is in. And so this continues to slow our progress towards implementing the changes that we're becoming aware of, as the Capricorn moon is stimulated by Mars. It brings the desire to work independently from others. And then on March 8th, we have 3 Earth, which is about taking action through gratitude for Mother Earth. And this brings us the second exact sextile of Saturn and Pluto. So the second time that, from our perspective here on Earth, that they're forming a harmonious 60-degree angle. And what with Saturn in Pluto's sign of Scorpio, Saturn's in Scorpio, and Pluto is in Saturn's sign of Capricorn, what we get is, this is called a mutual reception between these two planets. And this is important because mutual reception means that Pluto and Saturn are strengthening and supporting each other, while Saturn remains in Scorpio, and that's going to be for the next 3 years. And when I think of Saturn and Pluto teaming up, the words karmic judgment come to mind. When these planets are at a 60-degree harmonic sextile, they're said to be at the peak of this experience. And we had the first of these 3 exact angles on December 26, 2012, a few days after the solstice. The next exact hit is on March 8th, and then the final is occurring on September 21st of this year. This means that this is going to be a really strong force in the equinox charts, both the fall equinox and the spring equinox of 2013. Will really be seeing the effect of of this Pluto Saturn sextile. And this is a slow moving event, and it's really active during the entire One Eagle time period. Also on the 8th, Mercury conjuncts Chiron, the wounded healer, for the second time, due to Mercury appearing to move reverse, which has us reviewing our histories for information that will help us release our wounds. This retrograde period is about setting the stage for a quantum leap that is coming towards the end of the month. So we need to take advantage of the opportunities, take advantage of this, the opportunities that are yet to come, by releasing the unneeded baggage now, as the Aquarius moon is stimulated by Uranus, supported by Jupiter, and challenged by Saturn. The day's emotional energy goes from pleasant yet restless feelings and wanting to do something outside the routine, to having a nice sense of well-being. And then finally, with Saturn, it brings in sort of this feelings of loneliness and being out of touch with others. And the 9th is for Flint, which is about stability through reflection and introspection. And on that day, Mercury is challenged by Jupiter. So from our perspective here, that this is forming a 90-degree square angle, which it's Jupiter, so it can bring an optimistic view of life, but it can also bring a financial turnabout from investing in something that looks promising on the surface. And with the Aquarius moon making no aspects and void, of course, all day, it's good energy for really relaxing and integrating all this changing and new energy. It's not a good day for major purchases. Okay, March 10th is 5 storm, empowerment through recognizing the gifts of adversity in the Tzolkin. And as we have the moon in Pisces merging with Neptune and Mercury, and the moon is challenged by Jupiter, and it finds support by Saturn, and it harmonizes with Pluto. The flow of the day's emotional energy goes from a greater sensitivity to our surroundings and the potential for psychic experiences. And then our moods are more strongly influencing our rational thinking, while folks are benevolent and generous. And then finally, it brings a more sober and realistic view of life, with the arousal of some real profound and deep-rooted emotions. And then the 11th is 6 Sun, which is about being in the flow through honoring the wisdom and memory of our ancestors. And this is when we have the Pisces new moon, and it's merging with Venus and the sun. And the moon dancing with Venus is very promising for romance. But in Pisces, along with the sun, Mercury, Mars, Chiron, and Neptune, this is really about universal love. Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. So this could be about releasing something, wiping the slate clean as part of its process to begin anew. With a loose square between the traditional ruler of Pisces, Jupiter, and the modern ruler, Neptune, there's the possibility of illusion and delusion and loss of perspective during this lunation, which would be best used in a creative project like art or music or writing or dance, or channeled into a spiritual experience. And new moons bring the opportunity to set an intention for the manifestation during the full moon. So what you want to do is you want to look up the house of your natal astrology chart that contains 21 degrees of Pisces, to consider what area in your life is being activated by this new moon. And for me, this is the 10th house of career and public standing. So I would set an intention related to what my face is out in the outer world. This new moon brings energy to take us in new directions, and particularly with Mars moving into Aries on the 12th, which will begin a period of quickening energy, in which we begin to feel the shift from completing the old Pisces to beginning anew in Aries. But you may want to wait a few days for Mercury to turn direct on the 17th. So on March 12th, for 7 Crocodile in the Tzolkin, which is about reflection through new beginnings, Mars goes into Aries. So Mars then moves across this line into Aries, um, and which is a sign of its rulership, which can bring a real great drive to move in new directions, even if we've not processed and released the past. This is fiery energy and begins a period of pressure to aggressively move forward. But we benefit from restraint until Mercury begins its forward motion in a few days, as the Aries moon also merges with Mars and Uranus and harmonizes with Jupiter. The day begins with people feeling irritable, and that changes to becoming more impulsive and willing to act rashly, and then finally resolves to more congenial interactions, particularly if we're around old friends. And then the 13th is 8 wind in the Tzolkin. This is about balance, experienced through communications, with the moon in Aries challenged by Pluto, which can have us, this can have many different effects, from compulsive behavior to engage in activities that will not suit us in the long run, on the negative side, to soul searching to find out what it is we really want, as long as we can be honest with ourselves on the positive side. March 14th is 9 night, patience through contemplating the stars, as the Taurus moon harmonizes with Neptune, which, although it's grounded in Earth in the Taurus, it gives us some extreme sensitivity to other people's moods. So choosing to be with positive people who care about us would be one of the best applications of the day's energy. And then the 15th, this is about 10 seed manifestation through planting seeds and making new connections, with the moon in Taurus stimulated by Mercury, opposed by Saturn, and supported by Pluto. The day begins with increased conversations and up-tempo social interactions, and later folks start to feel more lonely and isolated. And then finally we have the feeling that our emotions are intensifying, and a profound increase in our sensitivity. And then March 16th is 11th Serpent, resolution through being flexible, as the Taurus moon harmonizes with Venus and the sun, which brings a day of wanting to be with friends and the people we love, but is also feeling a sense of balance between our inner and outer worlds. And then the 17th is 12 transformation, and that's the day that Mercury turns direct in Pisces, heralding a time to implement our revisions to our previous past. So it's actually come around here where it stopped, and now it's beginning to move in forward motion at 5 degrees Pisces. So this is a time of looking at what are we going to do? Where are we going to move forward with all the information and experiences that we became aware of during the retrograde cycle? It takes a few days to gain momentum, but over the next few days, we're going to start to feel like an invisible attraction to begin our new journey, as the Gemini moon is challenged by Neptune and Mercury, and in harmony with Mars and Uranus, and merges with Jupiter, which begins the day with fantasies being more important than reality, with a desire to work independently from others. And then later folks are being critical in their communications with those that they have intimate relationships with. And then there's feelings where there's somewhat feelings of pleasantness, yet kind of restlessness, and then finally shifting to contentment and a generosity towards others. March 18th, 13 Deer, movement to the next stage through being of service to others. With the moon in Gemini making no aspects, this is a really good day, and please hear this, to integrate the new energy and rest before the dramatic shifts that are going to begin during the one star Trisena as it wraps up the Tzolkin round. Mercury starts to really gain momentum. The Sun and Venus move into Aries along with Mars, which starts to activate the Uranus-Pluto square that we've talked about in a lot of the other reports. So basically, the end of this month is going to be kind of like flicking lit matches at a stockpile of black powder, gasoline, and dynamite. So rest on the 18th if you can, because later on you would appreciate having that downtime. So anyway, no matter what the energies are that are affecting you during the One Eagle Tzolkin, take some time out to be in the flow of the planet by being in nature, watching a sunrise or a sunset, communing with the stars and being conscious of the moment through introspection or meditation, or being with somebody you love and being fully conscious in that experience. Every day we have is a blessing, no matter what dramas beckon to distract us. We are all giving the performance of the lifetime on this world stage. But so take some time out to observe the play as well as act your part by remembering that you are a spiritual being that's having a human experience. Anyway, as always, I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of Care and Feeding of a New World Age will be on March 19th, 2013 for One Star, and we're going to be discussing the Sun moving into Aries for the equinox, and also Venus moving into Aries on the next day, and the Libra full moon. Anyway, you can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, or the Mind Magics website. And as always, I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or wish to schedule a reading. And I am providing readings and wish to make this service available to the greatest amount of folks. So I've created 3 options with 3 levels of compensation. These readings are designed to provide information to help you navigate these difficult times. And at the basic level, we're going to look at your human design chart to help you understand how to use your individual strategy and authority in making life decisions based on your unique design. I include the next 3 months of astrological transits as they relate to your natal and progressed astrology charts, along with the human design reading at the middle level, and then at the top level, the human design and astrology transit reading will be recorded and sent to you as an MP3 file to be downloaded to your computer. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me, as I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA or connect on Skype to receive your reading. And I'm also accepting donations so that we can keep these reports freely available. As always, I am blessed that you've taken the time out to connect with my passion for all of these ancient mysteries and their application on our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh. And I'll look forward to connecting on One Star. Thanks for everything.